So, in our last segment, we talked about what biblical fasting is, and we saw that many times in the Bible, kings and leaders would call the entire nation of Israel to fast in order, when they were facing overwhelming odds, times of treachery, when they were trying to make decisions. We saw in the early church that they would fast and pray. The main thing that we learned is that there is an assumption in the Bible that we are fasting. We've got to figure out how to do it because the Bible assumes that we are doing it. So what I want us to do today is just to talk about some simple ways to get started with fasting. The assumption is there. So we have got to figure out how to be equipped to fast. The first thing I want to tell you, it's important to start slowly. I would not start with a fast that Jesus did when he started his ministry and fasted for 40 days. If you're like me, many times I make these big lofty goals and then I kind of sit in a pile of my disappointment and defeat. So what I want to encourage you to do is to start slowly. This is what I mean. I would start with a 24-hour fast, depending on your schedule, starting like, let's say, going lunch to lunch. So you would miss 2 meals, or if you're me and you have cereal at night, that's 3 meals. But anyway, and then drink maybe fruit juice and water, maybe tea and coffee. Keep liquids going. You might then want to try a 24-hour fast, same thing, lunch to lunch or dinner to dinner, but just water. And then if that goes well, perhaps you could go to a 36-hour fast. So what I'm saying is it's important to start slowly. And let me stop right here because some of you have already thought this. For some of you, for medical reasons, fasting from food is not a possibility. You might be pregnant, you might be in the middle of chemo, you might have diabetes and you need to keep your sugar level. I completely understand that. I think it's not as much of a concern for us as we like for it to be. But if you have a question about that, check with a medical professional before you fast from food. If you absolutely cannot fast from food, I would encourage you to pick something else that takes up a lot of your day. It could be television, it could be social media. So think about something that you could fast from. But if it's possible, I encourage you to fast from food. Secondly, before you begin fasting, I would ask you to pick out some passages of scripture, maybe the Psalms. The Psalms are the kind of the hymnal of the Old Testament. So a great book to read through, some of those Psalms as you're fasting. You might also want to have some worship songs on the ready. I would also encourage you, third, to be prepared to listen. You might want to keep a notebook handy. Take notes on any thoughts or questions or ideas that might come to your mind while you're fasting. If you're praying for direction on a certain issue, this is a great way to ferret out later what might be from the Lord and what might have been just, I was hangry and I wrote down some rants. Anyway, so start slowly. Pick out some passages and some songs that you can use to focus on and meditate on. Have a notebook handy so that you can listen while you're fasting. Fourth, when you feel hungry, and you will, remind yourself you're not starving. I have been known when I have fasted in the past to actually tell my body, baby, 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 because whenever I get hungry, I know that my body is kind of being spoiled because it takes way longer than missing 1 meal to starve. We have trained and conditioned our bodies to get hungry. About 9:30 at night, I'm hungry and I'm hungry for cereal. Am I really hungry? No, I am not. I've trained myself to be. So when you feel yourself get hungry, remind yourself, I'm fine, I'm healthy, I'm okay. Drink some water, drink some fruit juice, and move on. So let's get practical. And the fifth thing, if you are the one in your family, I'm talking to women here, If you're the one in your family who's responsible for the food preparation, you're going to want to prepare ahead of time. You're going to want to either ask someone else in your family to handle that for the day, or you're going to want to prepare the food for your family ahead of time. And when or if your children or your husband or any family members ask you, why, Mommy, why are you not eating? What a great opportunity to talk to them about fasting. I think that's how it went in Old Testament times whenever the nations would be called to fast. And the children would say, Mommy, Daddy, why are we fasting? And they learned by observing their parents. Sixth, I would encourage you, do not binge eat before you fast or after you fast. You will regret it. I would taper off of my eating before, and I would taper back on afterwards. When I was in high school and a bunch of us decided we were going to fast, we broke the fast by ordering a pizza. Let's just say it was not a good idea. Seventh, I encourage you not to get discouraged. It is not an easy thing if you've never fasted before. It's a muscle that we have to exercise. And so don't be discouraged if it does not go well. That does not mean fasting must not be for me. No, it means I need to practice fasting more often. The last thing that I would say is in light of now understanding our biblical kind of the biblical mandate to fast, the assumption that we're fasting, and understanding now a few reasons, a few ways to fast, how to get started, I'd like to call us as women to a fast. So I will put out some information about that. I would like us to fast together in a given week and pray over some specific things. So be watching for that. Thanks for listening.